If you've got questions about picky eaters, I'm going to be answering some of them today. The first thing I wanted to start off by talking about is something that came up in my group coaching program yesterday. And the reason I want to start talking about that is because it affects a lot of parents, because it also came up in a client call right afterwards. And that was this idea of flexibility and being open to new things. And this goes beyond just what comes up in food. This comes up in life in general. So as I'm helping my clients through this, we're learning that most kids struggle with this, and it's a lot more than just something that happens with food. And as we're working on it, we're realizing that it's something that actually helps them in everyday life in general. So what I often say about coaching with me is that we are talking about, ultimately I'm there to help you with food, but there's a lot of aspects of what we work on that actually helps parents out in many other areas of parenting, which is fantastic, because I've had parents message me later saying like, hey, I was able to get my kid to bedtime by using some of the techniques that we've learned. Or, my kid is now helping clean up because, I know how to speak to them about certain things. So anyways, I wanted to jump in and go right to, usually Instagram, like, links the question box that I had just opened in my stories, but it hasn't done that today. So one of the questions that I did read that was in the question box was about transitioning a child from a baby's milk bottle. And it's interesting because that's something that's come up in my current group. We're in week 5 right now. And in the first 3 weeks, I actually helped about half the group members, 4 parents, transition from a baby bottle to a regular cup, either an open cup or a straw cup. And these kids were between 3 and 4. There was 1 2-year-old. And I've also got a one-on-one client who's got an almost 3-year-old we transitioned off as well. And we did that in about 1 week. So the way it's a process, and it's not an easy process. When I say it's not an easy process, it is absolutely doable. It's not easy in the sense that you're just going to be able to like do it without a meltdown. And so one of the things that we do is we troubleshoot exactly how we anticipate the meltdown, and we figure how can we take it back. We're not about negating the meltdown. We're not trying to stop the meltdown from happening in that sense. What we're trying to do is anticipate what the child is going to be upset about so that we can address that with them before it comes up. Because often a meltdown is about an unmet need or a fear. And in this case, if we tell a child, we are no longer giving you your milk bottle, they're going to be super pissed off and scared of that's a big change for them if they're used to having a milk bottle 3 times a day. So what we want to do is come up with a plan to couch this to them so that we can explain what's happening and why in a way that will get them on board, even though they're going to be upset about it. Like, they're going to be upset and there's going to be a meltdown no matter what. But it's all about how can you anticipate this so that you can help them avoid as much of the anxiety as possible when we are talking about making this huge change to them, or for them, this huge change in their lives. Okay. And I'm just seeing here someone asking, how can you hire me? Send me a DM on Instagram. Are you on Instagram? Send me a DM and just write that you talked to me in the live. Let me know what you're struggling with, and I'll get back to you, and we'll figure out whether you need one-on-one or group coaching. I saw you looking at me while trying to eat. I would lose my appetite first. Nice. Don't even know what to say to that one. So, okay, back to the milk bottle. So one of the kids for the 3-year-old, who's the child who's almost 3, my one-on-one client, we came up with a plan that we came up with a conversation that she could start with her child, and then sort of explain what was going to be happening and what their process was going to be for removing the milk bottle. And one of the big things that comes up with any of my private clients is that if the child says they don't want that or they don't like that, it's very hard for them to stick really firm and be actually consistent. So what I'm saying is, the level of confidence is lacking. And when the level of confidence is lacking, the child can see that. And we're very likely as the parent to be like, shit, I'm not confident in what I'm doing. They don't like this. I can see that they don't like this. I am just going to give them the milk bottle, or say like, maybe we'll try this, like maybe. And so when you're lacking in confidence, your child is like trying to figure out how far can they push you before you change your mind. And ultimately, that's not going to be helpful to your child. You need to go into this very confident. So the client that I was mentioning that has the almost 3-year-old, her husband was on the call too. And I said, okay, so we need a commitment that we're both going to be backing each other up here and keeping each other accountable. Well, all three of us, but the two of them specifically, because I'm not in their house with them, that we are doing it on this day. We come up with a day that is, whether it's tomorrow or it's, next week, it's got to be a day that's going to work for them, that they are comfortable with doing, that they can absolutely 100% commit to. And then we walk through the entire process from start to finish. We often troubleshoot. My kid's going to say this, and then they're going to do that, and they're going to cry, and then this is going to happen, and I'm going to feel this way. We literally troubleshoot through absolutely everything so that they feel confident no matter what actually arises. And often in my experience doing this with many families is that because they have troubleshooted through so many, they might do this, they might do that, they might do this, they are actually extremely confident, because often none of those situations actually arise. Like the child might have a question or might show some sadness and whatnot, but the parent is so confident knowing, like, I know Thalia helped me with this, I know exactly what's going to happen at each point. And they're able to push through it and actually get through it. And often the child has hardly any meltdowns. And again, that's not the goal. Some kids do have meltdowns. The client that I'm working with right now, her kid had meltdowns. That's okay. The mum knew how to handle it, and she was still able to do it. They were able to remove the milk bottle in a week. So the next question is, what if the child's milk consumption decreases? And I'm going to tell you that that's very normal. I'll tell you with my child. I removed the milk bottles before 12 months. It was between 11 and 12 months. We were on a straw. We actually went to a 360 cup. And yes, the milk amount decreases. And with a baby, a 12-month-old baby, has nothing to do with them being resistant or stubborn or anything. The amount of milk decreases when you remove the bottle, no matter what age. So that's very normal. Don't let that be something that stresses you or holds you back. Okay, I've seen some questions come in. I'm going to just scroll back and answer them. My son, this is an Instagram question. My son is 5 and he still asks/needs his bottle for sleeping. He's also asking for it when he is tired and trying to relax on the sofa, for example. Okay, so I've got a couple of kids in my group that are about 4 that have the same thing. And there's a lot of mindset work that goes into this as well. Because I was talking to one of the mums. She's like, I'm just not sure if I want to remove that nighttime bottle because he likes to sit on the couch and, drink it. And it's become a sleep crutch. And she knows this. She told me this. And the thing is that I want to ask you, that I asked her, I said, well, at what point would you feel comfortable removing it? How old do you want him to be and still wanting this? And I told her, you don't have to answer me right now. Go have a think about it. And let me know. And she came back the next day and she said, you're right. It is going to have to happen at some point. So why not have it happen now? And so they've done that. It's been removed and he's doing fine. So it's a question of what is the unmet need here? He's tired. He's tired. He needs something comforting. So what can we do to swap that for something else that's, when I say healthier, I mean like a better habit for him, and what that might look like. Could you do cold turkey, the bottle, or slowly remove baby is 11 months old at 3 bottles? That's a really good question. I've got to go back and rack my brain for how I did it. It wasn't cold turkey. So around 12 months is when you start treating milk as a food, and it starts to happen that you only give milk with a meal. And I go into a lot more detail on this. You're probably, I don't know if your baby's a picky eater, but if anybody has a baby that's like around 12 months or just a little bit older and you're struggling with milk and or some picky eating, my Mealtimes Without Meltdowns course is like my best-selling course. It's got a section about toddlers, like switching from baby to toddler, and goes into detail about how you make the transition with milk. But to answer that specific question, it's probably... It really depends. I would probably go with swapping out a day bottle and go to a 360 cup at that point, and then do it like over the course of a week, where you go with the one bottle, swap it. Like, let's say it's I don't know what time specifically, but let's say it's like lunchtime nap, like after lunch, and you give him the bottle. I would swap that out and give him like a little bit of milk from a 360 cup, or a straw, whatever, however, if your baby can drink from one of those. And then maybe 2 days later, go with the next nap, and then do the nighttime one. It's interesting because some babies are by 11 and 11 and a half months are actually eating quite a lot at dinner time. So in some cases, if that's the case, it's actually going to be easier for you to remove that night bottle, because you can start putting the milk with dinner, and then it's very natural to transition that there's just no milk right before bed. And the earlier you start like that, it's really, really good, because if you wait till your child is 2 or 3, they understand so much. If you do it when your baby is like around 12 months old, that you're not going to have this big issue that you have when your kid is older and is able to like give you so many opinions about things. So I really hope that helps you. All right, going over to TikTok, I saw quite a number of questions come in here. One question, actually, as I'm seeing someone put in here about a 7-year-old, I'm going to read this out. I have a 7-year-old ASD son who eats the same thing every day, and he will just not try anything new. One of the questions in my question box was about whether my program would help someone that has autism spectrum, like is on the spectrum. And the answer is, I'm not sure. First of all, the answer is I don't know which program you're talking about. My online course, I have had parents that take that course because the principles of that course are applicable to all children, whether they have special needs, neurodivergent, etc. The specific ways that you may implement them might be different. So if you're not sure, especially if your kid is really young, start with the program, Mealtimes Without Meltdowns. And if you're still having trouble and you want to hire me and get me to help you, we can I can do that, absolutely. But it's probably it's much more affordable to do Mealtimes Without Meltdowns. It's $149, which ends up being like $3 per module. So it's definitely the most cost-effective way to get started. And then if you're still struggling, which a lot of parents, many parents still have more questions that come up. As you make one change, other things come up. So, you might make the change of now we have a schedule, but then something else comes up with the schedule. The child's refusing to eat something, or, something like that. So you might need more support after that. But yes, working with me, I've worked with kids that have autism spectrum disorder, and other neurodivergent needs, kids that are nonverbal. So yeah, and if you have any more specific questions, just send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook. So about the 7-year-old, I've got a client right now who has a 7-year-old as well. Actually, he's almost 8, and he's almost the exact same thing that what you mentioned here. He only eats same specific foods. And when I started this live, I was talking about the importance of flexibility and kids being able to be flexible with many things in life, like reading different books or going to different places or meeting new people, and that really is something that affects children at mealtimes as well. Like, they won't try something new. And so this boy, we've been working together for a little bit over 2 months. And initially, he, like, when they went to a restaurant, he would not, like, he eats like a quesadilla, but only from one place. And they would have to coax him to trying one somewhere else. So they're no longer doing that. We got rid of that like right away, like in the first couple of weeks. And then there was a period, like, things get worse before they get better. My group right now is in that point, some of them, where like they're in the pit. And it's hard. It is hard. Like, it doesn't just get like better as soon as we start working together, because we're making a bunch of changes that are going to piss your child off. You're learning how to manage them. So it gets much harder before it gets better, but you've got to stick with it. That's why I have my groups are a minimum, that my groups are 8 weeks, because we need to get past that hump. And my one-on-one programs are usually 5 months, because it just takes that long to peel back all these layers and work through these major, like, they're psychological issues. It's not just food. Like, it's very much psychology. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought. The 7-year-old. Oh, yeah. So we're about 2.5 months in now. And he's trying the foods on his own. He recently accepted a meal. It was his favorite meal, which was like a turkey dish. And they added shredded carrot to it, which initially he was not comfortable with, but he did agree. We talked about how to have this conversation with him so that he would feel comfortable and confident, and he was comfortable and confident, and he ended up eating the dish even though it had the carrots in it. And the mum and him agreed that next time they would add zucchini shredded up in it as well, which he was initially not comfortable with. So we're modeling and demonstrating flexibility and modeling that to our child so that they can ultimately do that themselves when it comes to trying something new, which he did, which was a really big deal. Okay, this is the 7-year-old gags and spews. He's strong as an ox and will not back down. Okay, I hear this a lot. Like, all right, double tap me here if your child is also, you would describe them as strong-willed. I would describe both of my children as strong-willed as well. So it's the strong-willed. So my 3-year-old, the client who's almost 3, that we're removing the milk bottles, her mom has said this in like the chat. She says it to me in every phone call. She's very stubborn. And they are. And the reason they are is because they want to have some level of control. So when we work together, and also when you take my course, you will understand what is the correct level of control to give a child. And the problem that I see most parents falling into is they give them way too much control. And the child will say, I don't want that. I don't want that bottle. Like, I want my bottle of milk. I don't want that cup. And the parent will just say, okay. Well, not necessarily that permissive, but they might try to hold the boundary, but then they get worn down when the child cries or keeps asking. And so in the end, they do end up giving in. And that is a problem because the kids pick up on that. So yes, children are strong-willed. These methods still work because they are about working with the child, not against the child. Yes, I'm in Australia, so I understand when you say chips as fries. Isn't that funny? Because I work with clients all over the world, um, I'm getting really good at like understanding everybody's different slang. Do I have a book that I recommend? So how old is your child? I have a couple of books. I've got them actually on my Amazon store, which you can find if you want to. I always forget to mention that I have an Amazon store. It's closed a couple of times because I never mention that I have it, and no one ever uses the affiliate links for it. But if you want, my Amazon store is Family Snack Nutritionist, and so depending how old your child is, I've got a book list on Amazon. You can get the direct link to my Amazon store if you just click the link in my bio. I think it's down near the bottom. One of them, if you've got a young child up until the age of 3, actually, Born to Eat is actually by a friend of mine, 2 dietitians. It's a wonderful, it's an excellent book. I read it when my first baby was very young. And I'm trying to think, there's another one on there as well. Let me see if I can quickly actually open it. I'm not going to muck around with this right now. There are a couple of other ones on there that I think you'll find really helpful. Okay, when you've got a kid, somebody asked, what can we do when the kid is fine going hungry? That's really a scary point to be in as a parent. And also I have to admit that that's troubling for me as well. I've worked with clients that are like this, often in my one-on-one practice, because in my group, kids that go hungry, like my group is small, like my group coaching programs have about 8 to 9 parents so that I can give specific advice to everybody. But they are a little bit more general. Obviously, if you're working one-on-one with me, we are just troubleshooting your child. And in a situation like that, I have had most of the parents I would recommend working one-on-one with me, because there's something deeper going on there. If you've ruled out any kind of a medical condition, I should ask you, have they ruled out any kind of medical condition? Because often, it doesn't necessarily have to do with a medical condition. It can be. I always ask if you've had that checked out. And I have so many more questions. So when I have a parent that says that, I want to ask, okay, no medical conditions, good. So I would ask a lot more questions, like what foods do they eat? Does it happen at a specific meal that they go hungry? Like, is it always dinner? Is it always breakfast? And so based on the answers to those sorts of questions, we can kind of troubleshoot. Like, there isn't always a specific reason. But my goal is to identify a pattern and then make some changes. Sometimes we have to go back and forth. Like, we make one change, it doesn't work, or it's a little bit helpful, but then something else, we try something else. So it's not like I've just got like one strategy. It's not how, like, one strategy does not fit every child. So what works for one kid won't work for another. And sometimes we have to troubleshoot, like, let's try this, that doesn't work, let's try this. An aspect of that works, so we're going to add something else into it. So I've had kids that have started with me with 2 foods, 5 foods, 7 foods, and we always get them, increasing. I have kids that don't want to come to the table. A couple of my group clients actually had kids that didn't want to come to the table. This was a few groups ago, where it was like 7 days a week. They just wouldn't want to come to the table. And after about the first 2 weeks of the group, the kid was coming to the table 6 out of 7 times, 6 out of 7 days. So I always have a lot more questions to ask about that. So in your specific situation, if you're interested in coaching, send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram, if you have it, would be great. Let me know that we spoke in the live, and I'll be able to help you and direct you to booking a call with me so that we can chat more about that. Okay, I've got time for a couple more questions. Okay, take a look at my one-on-one coaching, and feel free to send me a DM. I'll just send you the direct link to book a discovery call, which is free. I'll just ask you lots of questions, and you'll ask me lots of questions. And I'm not taking I'm not really supposed to be taking any one-on-one clients right now because I do have a wait list. But if you're interested, just DM me and I will send you what you need. Okay. Do I offer advice for Arfid? Good question. Yes. Has your child been diagnosed with Arfid? I have a lady that is in my current group coaching. Oh, sorry, she was in my last group coaching program, and she was a psychiatrist, and her 7-year-old does have Arfid, and we're actually continuing our work together because she's had a lot of success even from the group, which I told her initially when she joined the group. I'm like, hey, your kid has Arfid. It's quite possible that I'm going to need to transition you to work one-on-one with me. But let's see how the group goes. Like, I'll touch base with you halfway through and we'll see how you're going. And halfway through, she was saying, like, the tools that I was giving them, like conversation tools and other strategies, were extremely helpful, and that she had tried new combinations of food, which for a kid that has Arfid, it's a diagnosed eating disorder. For those of you who don't know, it's very psychological. It's not about me giving you here's what you should feed your child. You already know that probably, or for the most part. It's about the strategies to help your child actually eat those foods. So yeah, this child was eating new combinations and was interested in touching foods that she wasn't before. She was eating breakfast, which initially she wasn't. We've been able to decrease her inshore as well, which is a really, really big deal. So yes, I would again ask you to send me a DM on Instagram and just let me know that we talked about this in the live, and I will send you a link. I'll probably want to chat with you on the phone before I tell you whether or not you should do group coaching with me or one-on-one, just because I don't want to waste your time. Okay. Hang on. Yes, diagnosed underweight. He's 11 and a half. And 3.5 stone. Oh, so you must be in the UK. You're using stone. 11 and a half. Okay. So normally I work with kids up to about 10, but I have worked with older kids. So just, will you send me a DM, and I would wager that we're probably going to need to work one-on-one, because older kids are wonderful. I love working with older kids because they have such a deep understanding of things that like a 3-year-old doesn't have. But chances are you're going to be more fitted to work with me one-on-one, just based on the fact that majority of my groups have kids that are under about 7. I suspect my son has Arfid, but he doesn't have a diagnosis. Okay, so my understanding, depending where you live in the world, that it's usually a doctor that will do the diagnosis. But the problem is, not every doctor and pediatrician knows much about Arfid. So you may want to talk to your pediatrician, and if you're not convinced that they actually are giving you the right answers, ask for a referral. Like, you really need to advocate for yourself. This is something I learned. I don't know whereabouts you live, but I'm actually Australian. I live here now, but I was for the last 10 years in America. And if you don't advocate and ask more questions and demand more help, you're not going to get it. So if you're not sure, you need to keep asking for someone, an expert, to help you out. There is no help for it really in the UK. Okay, so what I'd suggest you do, just like I said for the other people on the live, send me a DM. That's mine, less than 8 foods and so frustrating. We'll get tired of the yeah. Okay, so that's happening right now with one of my group clients who I'm actually going to have transition to working with me, not in the group, because she's got two kids that are experiencing this, and it's really hard, and she needs more individualized support than I can give her in the group. So yes, send me a DM, please, and let me know that we talked on the live, and I'll direct you to probably booking a discovery call with me so that we can chat more about this. So look, I'm going to start wrapping up. This was a wonderful live. Thank you for joining and for asking questions. And I love interacting with you in this way. If you're interested in group coaching, my next group starts in a couple of weeks in July. I can't believe it's already almost July. 3 spots are already taken. There are a couple of spots left. So go take a look. The link's in my bio. And you also get access to my Mealtimes Without Meltdowns course when you register. So if you register today, it's not like you have to wait 3 weeks to start. You can get access to the course right away and start working through that. In fact, I want you to, so that our first couple of calls are very efficient, so that you've learned like all the base groundwork principles and stuff before we get on our first call. My kid literally won't eat without watching the tablet. Yeah, I've got a couple of kids in my group right now that are doing that. My Mealtimes Without Meltdowns course does have a section about like watching stuff. But like I said, if you've got a kid and you have more specific questions and you would like to be able to troubleshoot with me, the group is by far the best and also most affordable way to work with me, because you get access to the online course when you register. So if you register today, you'll get access to the course today. I want you to start working through it immediately so that when you come to the first call, you already know all the base principles. And when we get started, we can push beyond those and really maximize our time together. And so we have a weekly group call. And it's a fast-paced, intensive group. So if you want to do it, you need to be committed to showing up. I do assign homework activities for you to do with your child, and the parents that get the best results are the ones that do that. And there's also a group chat, which is almost like a DM through the client portal, where you can message as frequently as you want, and you have my support the entire 8 weeks. I check the messages every 1 to 2 days, and I will get back to you. I often will send a voice note if someone has a specific question. I'll send a voice message back so that you can kind of understand my tone of how I'm speaking, and I'll give you examples of what to say to your child in that situation. You can troubleshoot with me, like, hey, I tried this, I did the homework, and it was, this is what happened, and I'm like not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing. And I can give you that direct feedback right away of like, hey, that's exactly what we expect, or hey, here's what you can talk to your child about what happened there, and here's how you can improve it for next time. So if that's the type of support, like, it's a very high touch program, in the sense that we have the actual calls every week, which all the parents say I'm always so like, I'm very built up and confident after the calls, and then they say sometimes throughout the week towards the end it's very difficult. And so that's why having the chat is so important. The more you use the chat, the more I can help you. So if that's something that is resonating with you and you're committed and you're ready to to put in this time, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it, because the more I can give you, the more I can help you. So yeah, take a look at it. The links are in my bio on all the platforms. And yeah, if you have any questions about coaching, or you read through the group thing and you still have a question, just DM me on Instagram or on Facebook, and I'll get back to you. So thanks again for being here. Have a lovely weekend if you're in Australia, and happy Friday if you're in the US or most other places in the world. And I will talk to you soon. Alrighty, bye.